Well, hi. Today is Thursday, January 29th, 2026. I'm Todd Studer, and this is Morning Coffee, and we are now into day two of Todd's voice held hostage by whatever got into my vocal cords. It has been a struggle, but we just keep powering on, and hopefully this will all resolve itself very, very soon. Coming up tonight is the annual meeting for the Council Bluffs Area Chamber of Commerce. I am going to be there, so if you see me, please say hi. And also, one of the reasons that I'm making sure that I'm there this year is Los Hills Medium Podcast was nominated for Small Business of the Year, and I am incredibly honored that someone thought enough of me and my company to nominate us. Now, we didn't win. We already know that. However, when they say that it's good to be nominated, it truly is. I am feel so great to be one of the nominees for Small Business of the Year for this year. So thank you very much to everybody who has been supporting us. Coming up today, we're going to talk with Anna Killpack. Anna is the executive director of NAMI Southwest Iowa, and she has an announcement to make. NAMI Southwest Iowa just received a grant to provide service for something that is very, very necessary. And I'm going to let Anna tell you all about it. Also, we're going to talk about an event that is coming up just immediately after the Shamrock Shuffle. So Anna Killpack, our guest today on Morning Coffee. Service Master Restored by Schmader knows it's hard to get back to normal when you've suffered serious property damage due to flooding, fire, or smoke, and you may also be left with all sorts of questions about how to get your home or business back to normal. Service Master Restored by Schmader can restore your space and serving Council Bluffs and the surrounding area. Call 402-339-9911. S&B Country Kennel has become the top spot in Southwest Iowa when you need to know your dog will receive only the best. Boarding, daycare, grooming, self-washing, training, and even a membership available to a dog park over an acre in size. S&B Country Kennel also has rescue dogs, so check with them about adoption possibilities. S&B Country Kennel, located just west of I-29 on Bungie Avenue, south of Council Bluffs. And in this new year of 2026, the Acres in Council Bluffs is ready to help couples and organizations plan unforgettable celebrations. Set on 13 beautiful acres, the Acres offers a flexible, stress-free venue with no hidden fees and full freedom to choose your own vendors, from weddings and receptions to corporate gatherings and milestone events. The space comfortably hosts up to 200 guests with everything needed for a seamless experience. Start the year by securing the perfect setting for your next event. Learn more, schedule a tour at theacresvenue.com. This is Anna Killpack. She is the executive director of NAMI Southwest Iowa, making her first trip into the studios on Willow. So what's your
So
first
excited to
impression?
be here. Yeah, it's great. It's a great space.
We're having a lot of success here. I tell everybody when they come in that I don't think a single day that I've been here, we haven't had some interview in the studios,
Yeah.
which proves to me that this was needed, long time coming, and I'm very glad that it now exists because a
Yeah.
lot of hard work goes in behind that.
Oh, I'm sure. I
Well,
know you, Todd. I know that you've put a lot of hard work into this.
Well, speaking of hard work, there's something that you put a lot of hard work into, and we wanted to talk about it today because I don't think that you've talked much about this, and there hasn't really been a lot of publicity about it. But
Oh, you have the exclusive story
I'm
here,
going to
Todd.
take it. NAMI Southwest Iowa was a recipient of a fairly large grant for a fairly important topic that's going on and a situation that we are dealing with. So tell us a little bit about what that is.
Sure. So, we were chosen as one of the recipients for the Iowa Opioid Settlement Funding Grant through the state through HHS, and the intent of these funds are really to help stem the opioid crisis that we're experiencing here in Iowa. I know it's something that we hear a lot about, and it seems to just be getting worse every day. You know, the fentanyl that's out there. Um, I just heard the other day from one of the police departments that it's now actually in powdered form. It's showing up. So, meaning it can be in anything. Anything can be laced with a fentanyl. And so our this opioid crisis is 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 out of control. And so what we're trying to do, Because we recognize that mental health and substance use disorder go hand in hand so many times. And mental health has historically been something that people just don't talk about and don't receive treatment for because they don't know where to turn. They don't know what's available. They don't know enough about it. And so substance use often becomes the way that people cope with what they're dealing with their mental health. And so how can we have an impact on that? And that's where this grant really comes into play. We can provide more education and more support in helping people to deal not only with substance use disorder, specifically opioid use disorder, but also the mental health struggles that come behind that, so that they're truly getting comprehensive, co occurring support and treatment to have a better chance of success.
I am so many different things wrapped up in what you just said, and I think, well, just starting from the beginning where you talked about the fact that mental health is not uh, historically has not been talked about, and I would make the argument that that still is the case in some areas, and that in itself uh, can fuel a crisis like this because too many times someone dealing with some type of mental health illness, crisis, whether it be situational or whether it be medical or whether it be whatever the case may be, it's looked at as a character flaw.
Mhm.
And that seems to be the default with it because oftentimes symptoms manifest themselves in behavior.
Right.
So that's a confusion that a lot of people have, that they think that, well, somebody's dealing with this, oh, there's something wrong with him, like he's making bad decisions. And that's not what it is. And I've been preaching this for a long time
Yep.
to anybody that would listen to me because we're hurting people
Mhm.
by saying that when there are options and there are treatments and there are things that people can do to combat this in a way that is much less destructive.
Mhm. Absolutely. Mental illness is no different than diabetes or heart disease or any other type of illness, physical illness. It it is an imbalance of chemicals in the brain that you are potentially genetically predisposed to. It is the way that you are made. Trauma can have an impact ultimately on the development of it, but um, by and large, there's a genetic inherited component of mental illness. And so it's no different than heart disease, high cholesterol, things like that. There are medications we can take that can help with that. There's things that we can do, lifestyle changes we can make that can have an impact on that. And so by not recognizing the fact that it's an illness, it is a disorder, it is physical just as much as any other disorder is, but because it changes the way that people think, feel, and act, that's where the difference in treatment comes in,
Well, and
right?
it can also create in a person a situation where they just need it to stop.
Mhm.
And that can cause uh, clouded decision making because you're not seeing the entire big picture anymore
Sure.
because of what's happening is so overwhelming and so all encompassing. So turning to drugs while that seems on the outside, well, that's just stupid. Why would you do that? But when you're not in the
Turning to
middle of it,
anything that
yeah.
helps you to escape the reality of what's going on is really the sorry, my phone's ringing. But turning to anything that can be an escape from the reality of what's going on inside of your mind, um, is is really the point
Mhm.
of using substances, of gambling, of lots of addictive type behaviors.
Yeah.
And
Oh, I
so
have my own thing now with, and Diane would be the first to tell you that I can get caught up in a doom scroll on my phone and
sure.
can't get out of it
Yeah.
because I still have this ADHD brain that by doing that it puts something physical attached to it, so I can just blame that for what's happening in my mind,
Mhm.
but it's not it's not accurate.
But
It's addictive.
you're
Yeah.
paying attention to that instead of what
Mhm.
is going on in reality,
Right.
right? It's an escape.
And
And and I do the same thing. Audiobooks. I love my audiobooks because it's an escape. It puts me into a different frame of mind. And sometimes those things can be healthy, but everything in moderation, right? So if I were to listen to audiobooks and choose to stay home and do that instead of going to work, when it starts to interfere with my activities of daily living or my responsibilities, that's when it becomes a problem. And anything can become a problem,
well, yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So that's the way I like to look at it is that, choosing to, and I say choosing because it is a choice, use you choose to use a coping mechanism, right? And so everybody has things they have to cope with. Let me just start there, right? Life is hard. It's how we choose to cope with them and what tools we use to cope with them that matters. And then how much we allow of that, instead of getting stuck in that doom scrolling,
Mhm.
or choosing to listen to audiobooks all day long and not take care of my responsibilities, those are choices. Um, Choosing to use a substance to escape that reality is the same, right? Um, it's just a more destructive choice. And sometimes the harder the things are you're dealing with, the more escape you need. And so for people who have that traumatic past that are dealing with the hardest of the hard, maybe
Mhm.
they're dealing with homelessness, maybe they're dealing with um, you know, loss of some sort, loss of relationships or loss of a loved one. These are situations that set you up for really not being able to function and cope. And you can slip easily into that.
And something as powerful as, say, fentanyl, which is, uh, I think for those not involved with it, is just kind of a word that sits out there, and we don't really understand how dangerous of a drug this is that has gotten a grip on people. And once that grip is there, now stopping is an altogether different deal.
Mhm.
And being able to provide help for that is the purpose to what this grant is all about.
Right, right. And large part of it is for our program that we call Reconnect, which is an educational program that helps people understand that connection between mental illness and substance use disorder and how common it is. It helps we talk about the science to really help take some of that blame and shame out of the equation so that people can understand how they got where they are. And now what can we do about it? What resources are out there to help them to have the best chance of success in treatment and in recovery. And so Reconnect is all about that co-occurring piece and understanding the connection between mental illness and substance use
Do you
disorder.
have any specific plans yet, or is this still
We do
in
have specific
okay,
plans.
this is
So,
this is exciting.
yeah.
Yeah.
So currently we do Reconnect in the community and also in the Potawatomi County Jail. And we have seen I I go into the jail and do the Reconnect program sometimes, and every time I go, I walk out with just this feeling of, "Wow." I'm just amazed at how much people open up and talk about their experience and are willing to talk about it and be vulnerable, and I'm always impressed and amazed at what people have gone through and what they're struggling with, and they really do have that by and large, they really do have a desire to change and to be better and do different when they get out. However, they're not they're not set up for success when they're released, unfortunately. That happens, we have a housing crisis.
Yeah.
We have I mean, food's expensive. We don't have a great healthcare system, I mean, all the things that you need to live and be healthy, housing, food, shelter, and health, right? Um, those are 3 of the hardest things. And when you, are released from incarceration and you have none of those, y and you have a history of substance use disorder, and maybe you have a mental illness that needs treatment, how do you deal with all of that when you're released? And so our plan is not only to ramp up our Reconnect program in the jail and expand to the other 8 counties that we serve a total of 9 counties, um, but also to provide one-on-one peer support to individuals when they're released from incarceration so that someone can walk alongside them when they get out and they're trying to navigate that, finding a provider that can continue to prescribe maybe medications that were started for them and while they were incarcerated, finding housing. It's still hard, not saying that we can solve that problem, but we can certainly help them to make those phone calls and to get them on the list and to find alternatives in the meantime and those stopgaps. Because coming out of incarceration and just being able to navigate that is so completely overwhelming. What we hear over and over again from individuals is that they just end up saying, forget it. What's the point? Because it's so hard to navigate. And they don't have someone walking alongside them in that. So, our hope is that by providing that support, we can make it less overwhelming and less likely for them to go back to that coping skill of using.
It's incredibly difficult to maintain a view of the big picture when you're standing in the middle of something.
Mhm.
You can't see it all. You just can't. And I don't know about you, but I know for me, if someone else is telling me about something that they might be going through, I can see my way in, out, all around everything that's going on with that very easily. But
Mhm.
if it's me,
Mhm.
I can't see it.
Sure.
And where I think these peer supports that NAMI Southwest Iowa is so key to helping people get through this, because this is someone else that has stood in that exact same spot. And when someone talks the same language and can say, "Yeah, I know what it was like there because here's what it was like for me," and yes, that's it, then that gets you a buddy to walk with
Mhm.
as you're walking out of that mess. You need to know that there is a path, and we can't see that path when they're in the middle of it.
You're absolutely right. And that importance of that peer perspective, it's not a clinical perspective.
Hmm.
It's not your doctor or your therapist telling you what you should do. It's someone who's giving you options and saying, "Here's some things you could do, and I can help you." And that makes all the difference in the world, knowing that the person that's trying to help you has been where you're at.
So starting then, obviously, inside of the jail system is very
Mhm.
important. Is there things going on outside, just in
Yep.
in 9 counties? That's a wide area.
It's a wide
So
area, and it takes a lot to serve 9 counties. So we are starting with Pottawatomie County Jail, um, ramping up, adding more sessions of the Reconnect program within the Pot County Jail. Um, we're in the process of defining what that one-on-one peer support looks like. It's gonna take some time to get that ready to hit the ground running. They're ready for it. I mean, when we talk about it in the reconnect sessions, they're ready, but we're not. So, but that's going to take some time. Meanwhile, we're reaching out to other county jails to start to offer the reconnect program in other county jails, and so we're working in partnership with them to start that process, and um, also offering peer support one-on-one peer support to anyone who's involved in any of our programs. So that will be another piece of the peer support. So you don't have to be someone who's incarcerated and coming out of incarceration to qualify for that peer to walk alongside you. Maybe you're attending our support groups, maybe you're attending our peer-to-peer class or even family-to-family class, any of our programs that NAMI Southwest Iowa offers, if you're involved in that, we want to be here to help walk alongside that, your path with you, and help you find the resources you need. Um, the other piece of this that I'm super excited about, it's a new initiative for us. It's called NAMI in the Lobby. So this grant also covers NAMI in the Lobby is a program that's intended to meet people where they're at. So rather than people having to come and find NAMI Southwest Iowa and know what our resources are, um, and community resources, we're going to go and meet you in the lobby of the hospital, in the lobby of the clinic, and we're going to be there to provide on the spot one on one peer support and resources, not just our resources, but resources in the community. We can have that conversation right then and there and help point you in the right direction and provide some warm handoffs and navigation. Um, so we won't be there at all times. It'll be a kind of a once a week kind of thing
Mhm.
for a few hours to start off, but it's peer support right there where you're already at. You're going to visit your loved one, maybe in the hospital, um, say at Mercy Hospital, and during visiting hours, and you've got parents of so family peer support, parents of adults that have mental illness, they've been where you're at. You can talk to them right there in the lobby before you go up to visiting hours or on your way out and get that support and find those resources right there on the spot.
There's so many pieces to this that, from obviously fundraising, you received a generous grant, but that only goes so far.
Right.
There's a whole lot more
Right.
to do than what that grant can do. And there's also the people that, past just the staff that's working in the same office as
Mhm.
you have volunteers all
Yes.
across the 9 county area that are helping people, as you said, where they are at,
Mhm.
knowing that, hey, I have been in this place and it's important for me to let others know that there is a backside to it. There's a path through this,
Right.
and it's not always the most comfortable path to walk, but it is walkable because I've done it.
Mhm. Absolutely, and we have not so we have volunteer facilitators for some of our programs. We also have staff facilitators throughout the 9 counties, not just in our office, but, in Clarinda and Atlantic and, um, let's see, Clarinda, Atlantic, Harlan, Council Bluffs. Um, they don't reside in our office, but they do programs within those areas, and we'll be providing peer support. We are always looking for additional people too. Um, Peer support, the one-on-one peer support, that is done by staff rather than volunteers because we need to make sure that they have the proper training and certification, and there are certain requirements that we have to meet per the state, to be able to provide that service. And so we want to make sure that we are providing the best service we can and it's they're appropriately trained. We do provide training for our volunteer facilitators, but it's a much shorter training process. It's not a year-long certification, that kind of stuff. So if people are going to go through a year-long certification, I think they should be paid for it.
That's it. Yeah, it's a pretty big commitment.
Right, absolutely.
Making
So
all of that happen.
but
There's
we are always looking for additional peers. If you are someone with lived experience with mental health and or substance use disorder, give us a call.
there is also an opportunity to learn more in person from folks, and at the same time have what I can only assume will be a pretty good bowl of chili, because there's a chili
Several
cook-off.
pretty good bowls
I
of
think
chili,
so. I
probably.
think so. And chili cook-off and a fundraiser that is going to be happening in conjunction. Well, it's going to be afterwards. It's of the Shamrock Shuffle, which is coming up on March 7th, I
Yes,
believe,
March
which
7th.
is going to be a Saturday. Well, afterwards, when everybody's cold, and usually you are cold after this event, it's pretty early.
It can be pretty cool yet in
Yeah.
March.
So just right a block away
Mhm.
at the Methodist Church,
Yeah.
there is going to be a chili cook-off, and you can come out, learn more about NAMI, be able to support what NAMI does. Also, more of those funds are going to be given away to another charity, depending on who wins
Yep.
the chili
Charity
cook-off.
of their choice. Yep.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So that's I'm excited for this. I think that a lot of folks already going to be in town, and nothing like a good bowl of chili to warm up after a brisk walk/run.
And nothing like a good competition between first responders
That's
too,
that's
right?
true. Yes, because these
Good
guys,
friendly
yeah,
competition.
these men and women are some of the most competitive that I've ever
Yeah.
been around,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
this is just another chance
Should
for
be a
them
lot
to
of
do that.
fun. Should be a lot of fun. And a shout out to the Methodist Church for allowing us to use their space. They have
Yep.
been so generous and gracious with that. So thank you to them.
Yep. So they've got parking there, and also you can just walk right over after the Shamrock
Hmm.
Shuffle and come be a part
Yep.
of it. And
Yep.
as I said, learn more about NAMI while you're there. I'm sure there's going to be some information that people can pick up,
Yep.
and I would encourage you to get involved in whatever level you can. These are our friends and neighbors and sons and daughters and parents and grandparents and everybody else that Anna, you and your team are out there helping and supporting and encouraging. And I don't know of a single person that isn't touched by something in mental health in one way or another. It is, we talk about it more than we used to, but
Hmm.
we still don't even begin to talk about it
Yeah.
at 10% of the level that we should.
You're absolutely right. And I think statistically it's now almost 1 in 4. Used to be 1 in 5
Mhm.
statistically. And honestly, I don't know that that number has gone up because there are that many more people struggling. Personally, I think that that's because more people are talking about it. More people are seeking help. And so, you can't be counted in the numbers if you're not out there seeking help or
Mhm.
talking about it. So, um, I think that reflection is just that more people are seeking help, which is a great thing, but there's still a lot of people that aren't. And so, um, I encourage anyone who is struggling with just coping. If you're
Yeah.
struggling with coping with day to day and things that are going on, find somebody to talk to about it. Doesn't mean that you have to take medication. It doesn't mean that you have to do anything specific, but just finding someone that you can connect with, that you can talk to about it, can really help you to learn to cope in healthy ways.
Well, I've talked about it a little bit on the show, but not a lot. And I'm going to talk about it now because I think that it's important for people to realize that this is a whole lot more common, and I'm going to use the word normal,
Hmm.
than people want to admit. I've had a very long journey, and eventually it was discovered that the source of a lot of the anxiety that I was dealing with and the stress and the periods of depression were based on PTSD and again, trauma response kind of thing.
Hmm.
And once all of this was figured out and I was able to get targeted treatment for that, which, EMDR therapy, I'm a huge,
Hmm.
I'm telling you, that
Hmm.
stuff is great. Um, it was completely life changing. And I have found that the more that I talk about it, the more I hear back.
Hmm.
Everyone has something.
Absolutely.
But we think that we have to hide it, and we think that people won't understand if they only knew the truth.
Hmm.
And guess what?
Hmm.
you're not alone. And it's easy to think that we are because we're scared to talk.
Mhm.
We're scared what other people will say, what other people will think, what other people might do. I've experienced this. But if we all start talking,
Mhm.
then
Normalize the conversation.
yeah, and that's it. I mean, it would be a whole lot easier if we could just take a blood test and be able to identify something just immediately.
Mhm.
And, because you talked at the beginning about, whether it's diabetes or heart disease or different things like this, there's tests they can do. There's a blood sugar level you can check
Mhm.
for diabetes. There's all these different things, and you can pinpoint, okay, this is it. Oftentimes, mental health is a lot more vague, and it's not quantifiable
Mhm.
in ways that other diseases is, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Right.
It just means that we need to be better at figuring this kind of stuff out.
Mhm. And mental health is, I mean, it's still a clinical diagnosis. It's not a, like you said, there's not a definitive blood test or
Mhm.
something that we can take to pinpoint it. And so it's really left up to the observation of the clinician to make that diagnosis. And the clinician can only be as accurate as what information you share with them. So that's something to keep in mind too. If you're not open and sharing everything and being honest with your provider, then you may not end up in the right with the right diagnosis or the right medications. And that's important to remember. But also because it is a clinical opinion, sometimes it takes time to get the right diagnosis and get on the
Mhm.
right medications. There's so many different medications, and some work for some people and some work for others. And um, that can delay and sometimes discourage people from treatment. And
Right.
so I encourage you to be patient and stick with it, because once you find the right treatment, whether it's EMDR therapy or um, or DBT or medication or a different medication, once you find the right solution, it is life changing.
That,
And
that and that's another big part of it is that, like with the diabetes and the measurements, okay, take this much insulin. We can measure this. We
mhm,
know specifically what it is. But just as you said, Anna, it's not a one size fits all when it comes to this.
right.
And I was fortunate that somebody, uh, after talking with me, I could still hear and see the conversation just as it happened. Was anybody ever talk to you about PTSD? And I said, I know what that is, but I don't have it. And he said, No, I think you do. and then and then he asked if I would be open
Mhm,
to trying EMDR therapy, and I said I'd be open to trying anything.
mhm,
And from the very first time that I tried it, and again, everybody's different. I'm not saying that my path is someone else's path. This was just my
mhm,
path.
right.
But from the very first time, I felt a physical difference. My body heated up. My brain was remembering things that I hadn't thought of in 40 years.
Wow.
And And as it was explained to me what was happening as we were going through this, and that memories were being rewired, and one thing was being reattached to something else, and one thing didn't trigger the next thing. Oh, that makes sense. And then my stress dreams went away.
Mhm,
And I wasn't constantly dreaming all night long about these horrible situations. They were gone.
mhm, mhm,
And this, again, was what I needed. This is what worked for me.
right.
Other people, it is a journey to find this out. It's a
Absolutely.
discovery journey.
I have my own depression diagnosis, and depression and bipolar depression, there's a long-standing history in my family of it. And but of course it was never talked about.
Mhm.
It was never, and so as an adult, when life got hard, especially I have an adult son that has a diagnosis of schizophrenia, and that was hard. That is hard. Um and he was, especially because he was young. He was 13 when he was diagnosed, and of course things started happening much earlier than that. And so as a mom, the stress and the despair that that puts on the family, I really felt like that was the reason for my depression. I chalked everything up to
Mhm.
situational, and so um, didn't really deal with it appropriately initially. I knew, just like most people, I knew nothing about mental health before my son got sick. A lot of people, until it impacts you in a major way, you just don't sit up and pay attention,
Right.
unfortunately. And that goes with a lot of things in life, but I was no different. But once he got sick and I started to learn about mental illness through NAMI, by the way, um, I really started to put the pieces together for myself as well, and realize that my dad had depression. I mean, that's essentially what killed him because he couldn't get out of bed and take care of himself. And my grandma had bipolar and was hospitalized many times, but of course we didn't talk about it. She had hysteria. She had,
Mhm.
there were lots of different terms for it, but it wasn't mental illness. Um, so once I recognized the family history and then thinking about my own struggles, just coping with life and dealing with and being able to function personally, um, I started to take medication finally. And it took about 3 different meds before I found the right one, the one that I felt like was a good fit. I didn't have a lot of side effects. And now it's been probably 6 years I've been on the same medication, and I wouldn't be here in this job today had I not made that change in my life, because I wouldn't have been able um I wouldn't have been able to show up every day. So much absenteeism at work is caused from depression, and people
Mm.
just don't realize it.
Well, as we said, every journey is unique,
Mhm,
but at the same time, there is a common thread, and you can have a person to walk that journey with
mhm.
you. And that's what NAMI Southwest Iowa does, is makes those connections for people. The peer-to-peer support groups are critical, in my opinion, to, as you had mentioned earlier, reach people where they are, because that's important. That a lot of these folks that are struggling and coping and living with some of the stuff that we're talking about. This may sound a little strange. I know you're going to get it, but these are some of the strongest people that I've ever
Oh,
met,
absolutely.
because the strength that is needed oftentimes to just get out of bed in the morning
Mhm,
is exhausting,
mhm,
but yet they do it.
mhm,
And you see them out there. Uh, Sometimes it feels like they're barely hanging on, but strength doesn't, feel strong.
mhm.
That's not what strength is.
Right.
Strength is continuing on when you don't feel like it.
And it
And
takes a lot of
yeah,
strength to be vulnerable and to
yeah.
open up and to talk about what's going on. I mean, that's not an easy thing to do. And so just taking that step to seek treatment and um to be vulnerable takes a lot of strength.
Well, and I'm grateful that you have been leading the charge with this. We've seen great strides in the communities, and NAMI Southwest Iowa has grown from your leadership and tutelage. So we thank you for that. And I'm looking forward to a great chili cook-off, and we're gonna have a great time on March 7th. We hope that you come out to the Methodist Church right here on Broadway in Council Bluffs and support your favorite first responder team that is out there,
Yep.
and support local charities and support NAMI Southwest Iowa. And thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to seeing everybody at the chili cook-off.
Are you looking for a part time job, and do you like driving? You know you can get paid for it as a first student bus driver, working short hours, earning a competitive wage, and making a difference in the lives of children. That pay starts with a sign on bonus. Fully licensed drivers get a sign on bonus of $4,000. And if you don't have your CDL yet, you can get a sign-on bonus of 3,000 once you do. And every driver gets on-the-job training, so don't wait. Apply at workatfirst.com. And Morning Coffee brought to you by Keith Jones, your Edward Jones financial advisor in Council Bluffs. Learn how he can help you reach your financial goals. Visit edwardjones.com for more. Edward Jones, member SIPC. Thanks again, Anna Killpack, for joining us today on the show. Don't forget that the chili cook-off is coming up on March 7th at the Methodist Church in Council Bluffs. That wraps up today's show. My name's Todd Studer. See you here tomorrow morning.